name is Taylor Bays, and for this project I'm going to talk to you about the architectural spaces of Dracula's castle in the novel by Bram Stoker. In the novel, we are first introduced to Dracula's castle on page 11. Jonathan approaches the courtyard in front of the vast ruined castle, and he describes the windows as being tall and black. He says that the courtyard is of considerable size and that there is a great door that is studded with old nails. He also mentions that the doorway is made out of massive stone. Jonathan says he could hear the rattling chains on the other side of the great door as Dracula begins to open it. The chains and locks are Dracula's way to keep people out of the castle. After Dracula lets Jonathan in, they enter through a passage that leads to a great winding stair. As they approach the next level of the castle, Jonathan sees the other great passage, which is made out of a stone floor. At the end of this passage, there is a heavy door, and on the other side of that door is where Jonathan's dining room is. If they cross through the dining room, there's another door that leads to a small octangular room, which has another door inside of that. The door that is inside of the octangular room leads to Jonathan's great bedroom. From his bedroom, he is able to see down below into the courtyard. There's a door across from his bedroom, and that's locked. If we go back inside of the dining room, there's another door that leads to the library as well. On page 22, Jonathan talks about being back at the top of the staircase, and there's a room that overlooks a cliff which is facing towards the south. If he explores further, there are doors everywhere, and all of the doors are locked and bolted. Again, Dracula keeping people out. Page 28, he goes up the stone staircase, and he sees into the narrow darkness of the courtyard. If he goes down the staircase, he's back into the original passageway. Again, there are various stairs and passages with doors everywhere. He goes into the door at one of the top of the staircases and enters into another wing of the castle. This wing has suites of rooms that lay along the south of the castle. On page 43 is where we go into the Count's room again. The Count's room is only accessed by Jonathan if he rushes to the east windows and scales himself down the wall to get into the Count's room. Inside the room there's a door in the corner, and it goes down a winding staircase along a passage into the old chapel, where he finds Dracula's coffin. As we're talking about this, we can all probably picture the castle through Jonathan's eyes. We can begin to imagine us roaming around and visualizing these spaces, but does it actually work? From an architectural standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Trying to organize these spaces mentioned in the castle in the order and the way that Jonathan describes them doesn't work. The rooms do not fit together, and it becomes extremely confusing. Bram Stoker created these spaces solely for the novel's benefit, and we are unsure if he ever thought about it architecturally, which is really interesting. The castle that does exist as Dracula's castle is known as the Bran Castle in Romania, which is shown in this photo. I'm going to show you the floor plans of each floor and discuss some of the similarities and differences within the castle in the novel and this one. So here's the ground floor, and looking at the plan, we can tell that the walls are made up of a thick, heavy mass, which is similar to the massive stone Jonathan describes in the novel. We can see that there are some windows, but they are much smaller than regular normal windows. In this plan, I highlighted the courtyard, which is the center, as well as the stairways, which are in orange. The various passages and stairways are similar to that of the novel. From looking at this plan, we can't really tell which is the great staircase, as mentioned by Jonathan in the novel. Here's the first floor, and again we can see all the various stairways, and also the courtyard. But where's the octagonal room? It doesn't even exist in the Bran Castle. As we look at the second floor, we can tell that there are longer, narrow passages and stairs which lead to different spaces. There are rooms that have multiple doorways as well. So here's the third floor, and again there's more stairs. You can see a secret stair passage to the right, and if you look, to get from one room to the next room, you must enter through multiple doorways in order to get around. And you can see that the left tower begins to isolate itself as we can go up to the upper levels. Here's the fourth floor and the last level. Here mainly what we notice is the windows overlooking the courtyard, and also the stairs again. Still, even on the upper level, we have the thick, heavy mass of the walls, and it's kind of hard to tell what room is what because there are so many rooms smaller and larger in the castle, and doors leading into other rooms. Even this castle seems confusing. From me playing and studying these floor plans, I was able to build somewhat of a 3D digital model, so I can show you guys how maze-like this castle is. Just from the view from above looking into the castle with no roof or no flooring, we can just see how maze-like it really looks. There's no particular pattern to the floor plans at all, just kind of scrambled together. Here's a castle with a little bit of the roofing. This is just more of a massing model to show you guys the basic shape of the castle. Now I just want to take you guys a little bit inside of the castle, going from the outside into the courtyard. So here we are looking into the castle. We're on the ground floor. And then we go a little bit deeper into the castle. We could begin to see another passageway. And then going through that passageway, or up to the passageway, we begin to see another doorway, which is kind of similar to the model, or in the novel when he said there's doors and doors everywhere. And go a little bit deeper, and we get to see some more doors. And then through the passageway, we can kind of see up into the courtyard and view more of the doors. And then we get all the way through into the castle, so we're inside of the courtyard actually. And then this last one is just another view from inside the courtyard, which is looking towards where I just walked you guys through. Now I want to compare the medieval Gothic architecture to the modern architecture of the Twilight House, where the Cullens live. The architecture of the medieval and Gothic century was like more stone structures. They had the vaulted ceilings, the pointed arches, and they're very grand and tall designs, whereas the modern architecture has the clean lines, there's very basic shapes, simple geometric forms, very linear elements, very cubic volume, and this is where the flat roof comes into play. So the Twilight House, also known as the Hoker House by Skylab Architects, is located in Portland, Oregon, and from just looking at this picture, we can instantly see that the architecture is completely different versus the Bran Castle. The Hoker House is very modern. It has big open windows, which is very different from the dark castle of Dracula. And the windows help connect the outside environment to the interior space. And it also allows plenty of light to enter into the house. So from what I just described as modern architecture, we again can tell in these photos that the house is very modern, and it's made up of the simple geometric shapes that we had talked about in the previous slides, and that the volume is very cubic and rectangular, and that the house is very linear. So then looking at the plans of the Hoker House, floor 1, we can see that there's only one main staircase, which is in the center of the home. The rooms are rectangular and open. These dashed lines that you're seeing are the roof lines, so the roof is very linear, and the walls in these plans are very light compared to that of the thick, heavy massing of the castle. In the plan, we could also see that it has the columns that are supporting the upper structures. And then the second floor here, we can tell that there are many windows, which seem like an odd thing for a house full of vampires, but we're going more into the modern vampire versus Dracula, and that the rooms are larger, and we can see that there's a clear and clean organization to the function of the spaces. There are also patios in which you could get to easily from inside, which is again connecting the inner with the outer space. And then the third floor is very linear and rectangular, and there are only doors where there needs to be doors. They're just not all over the place connecting rooms with rooms, and we could easily understand where to go on this floor plan, so it's very functional. And then if we just look briefly at the mansions featured in True Blood, the architecture is more Greek and Roman-like, and this first house is featuring like a Roman and Greek pediment, which is the triangular part of the roof there, and the house is very ornamented with sculptures and incorporates columns into the structure and design. And then this next mansion features the Greek columns, which go all the way up to the second floor, and we can obviously see that there are many windows in this design, which is again seems to be an odd thing for a house full of vampires. But but very, very Greek-like compared to that of Dracula's castle, and even to Twilight's house. So in conclusion, architecturally, Dracula's castle is not very functional, and it's not very inviting whatsoever. It's just like a dark fortress where the Count liked to keep his prisoners in. The newer, more modern vampire homes featured in Twilight and True Blood are very similar to that of an average home architecturally. They're allowing light to enter the space and building, and they're very inviting and welcoming. Very different compared to Dracula's cold and dark castle. These newer homes don't really look like a space where Dracula would live. So thank you for going with me through Dracula's architectural spaces featured in Bram Stoker's novel, and I hope you all have a better understanding of the architecture of the Bran Castle as well as the architecture featured in Twilight and True Blood as well.